Welcome to the Twisted Pint Tavern. Loot Goblin came by today to hand out some presents like a little green Saint Nick and drank all the spiced eggnog, and while he was here we read some stories about people who may or may not be on the naughty list. I'll let him introduce himself, then we'll get into the good stuff.
Hey, I'm Loot from the Loot Goblin Marketplace.
Oh, and when you're done here, make sure to go check out the video we did on his channel for more D&D Am I the A-Hole?
Am I the a-hole for killing my player characters in D&D? I, 20 female, run a campaign with several of my friends. One friend, who we'll call B, is a male 19, was playing a light domain cleric. The party, through a series of lucky rolls and impressive deductive reasoning, found out where an antagonist would be, which I did not expect. I was very upfront with the party that I had expected them to arrive at this battle far later, but allowed them to continue. I was not unprepared. I knew which enemies would be at that location and what they were doing. To grossly oversimplify, the party ended up fighting a devil, who was the corrupted version of one of the player character's dead fiancé. During the fight, the devil began to overpower the fighter, and the cleric used a wand of magic missile to distract the devil. Behind the screen, I had laid out that the devil would use a 1-a-day disintegrate spell as a last resort if she had no way to win, as this particular devil was spiteful and cared more about inflicting harm upon the party than surviving the battle. On the devil's turn, I had all the player characters and their friendly NPC roll a luck check, and the devil was going to attack whoever rolled the lowest. The cleric rolled a 6. I called for a dex save from the cleric, which was met with an uproar from the party, as the cleric had a -2 to dex. Claiming I targeted her, I told the party that the disintegrate spell called for a dex save, and there was nothing I could do to change that. The cleric then failed her saving throw, and the minimum amount of damage from the spell dropped her below 0 hit points, and per the spell, she was disintegrated and permanently killed. The party had since turned cold on me, despite me being very open that I intended to help the player roll a new character. Am I the a-hole for wanting my game to have stakes?
So I feel like this is kind of a not the a-hole in the sense of your party pushed a fight that they weren't prepared for, they weren't leveled for, and there was a consequence from that, but kind of the a-hole in the sense of, as the DM, if you have a way underleveled party, you should find ways to kind of nudge them away from the instant kill fights. I mean, if you think of like Curse of Strahd, Castle Ravenloft is always there. You can always go fight Strahd whenever you want, but it's kind of up to the DM to urge the party to look for things that might be better than just storming the castle at level 2.
Yeah, and I definitely understand not wanting to pull the punch of like the full strength of this devil because you probably warned how strong they were, but the once per day disintegrate and kind of how it was determined, unfortunately there's always going to be hurt feelings when you basically have a save or suck for someone in the party. So I definitely get why the cleric's upset, but it is a little bit their fault as much as it is the DM's, if he put enough warning ahead of time.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it comes down to, is we don't know exactly the context of how much of a warning the party had. I think every game, both in content of the world and session planning, should be a mix of static and dynamic. Things should be able to change around with how the party are doing things, but you shouldn't have to completely like rewrite your plot for that sake. But again, if the party went into a basically guaranteed TPK situation without knowing that because they were following a lead in a direction you just didn't intend for them to do, that's kind of almost no one's fully at fault, but both sides could have done it better.
For the final question, when they say like, is it okay if there's stakes? It's kind of something you determine session 0. Reddit can't really help you here. It's kind of like your prep should have helped you.
Yeah, I mean, I love games having stakes, but I also, as a player, prefer to kind of know if I'm going to go into something that's going to have lethal stakes without being prepared for it.
Definitely.
Am I the a-hole for intentionally downing a fellow party member with his own sword at his first D&D session? So context, I, 31M, recently met up with some coworkers and their partners to start a new D&D campaign. I have never played D&D, but I really enjoyed Baldur's Gate 3 and figured I'd give the tabletop version a try. First off, D&D is not the tabletop version of Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is the video game version of D&D. Come on, get it right.
Is that John Halo from Fortnite?
Yeah, exactly. Came up with an idea for a ranger character that I was excited to roleplay and everything. Another coworker, Carl, joined us but has never played D&D either. He made a fighter that had several swords, including some family relic or something. Anyway, in our first session, the DM had us fighting some shadow demons that were resistant to physical damage. So, being a ranger, I cast Magical Weapon to make my weapon magical and attacked the demons and did a decent amount of damage. Carl, noticing his non-magical attacks weren't doing much, decided to steal my character's weapon. We did the opposed strength check, he rolled a nat 20, and then he attacked the demons. When my turn came up, I attacked him and did some damage. On another turn, I tried just taking it back. I rolled high, but he rolled another nat 20. And then at some point, he offered to just give me his family sword. I took it and attacked him with it, downing him. One of my best friends of 12 years was also at the table, and throughout all this, she kept saying things like, "Those two are being ridiculous," as if I had anything to do with starting any of it. And then after the session, she texted a long lecture about how I handled it poorly. I asked her how I should have handled it, or how she would have handled it, and she didn't have an answer. I don't know. I know the original situation is petty, and him stealing the weapon wasn't too upsetting, but being treated like a villain for retaliating in character made me feel much worse. And when I tried defending myself to my friend, she just said things like, "It's not that serious." It hurt that my friend didn't have my back, but also I generally and genuinely trust her opinions, so it's got me questioning whether or not I was an a-hole.
Yeah, when it comes to this, I think they're only really being the jerk here if it's not in the nature of the party to do bits or to have PvP, because you can kind of argue either way. This is either them acting in character where PvP is enabled, or, it's a good spirited group usually. It's just a funny situation where, reflectively he just hits him.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of dependent on the context of the group on how that first, trying to steal the sword went. Because as he said, it's a lot of people's first session. So maybe this person was going for a comedic kind of moment of, "Hey, give me that, I'm the better fighter," or something, which isn't that out of line with some animated fantasy shows. So I could see some thought process there. But the coworker Carl who stole the sword is the one who started the whole thing. I think OP kind of went a little too far along with it in the sense of downing him and turning it from a fight, party versus shadow demons to effectively a 1v1 on the sidelines. But again, what else are you going to do if this one guy is trying to steal your stuff that's helping you be effective in the fight? I mean, it all kind of depends on the party dynamic. And clearly, at least one other person didn't think that it fit the dynamic well and they were upset by it. But overall, I think this is just kind of two people that maybe shouldn't be at the same table together situation.
Yeah, definitely. At my table, it would probably be done for laughs. And even if someone died from it, I mean, I guess that person would just hold on to that sword kind of as a running gag. So it really is just how your group is comfortable with different things.
Yeah, and I feel like it's definitely a good point of not every person is fit for every table and vice versa. Just because you don't like when other people make meme grabs at your weapons, assuming that's what this was, doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong or you're being too sensitive. It just means you and that person who's trying to steal your stuff probably shouldn't be at the same table, at least until you guys can get on the same page about what you want in the game.
Yeah, definitely. Is it a PvP server is basically what we got to figure out.
Which RuneScape server did you sign into? If you sign into the PvP one, it's on you.
Am I the a-hole for leaving out a player? My friends and I have never played D&D before, but we were always interested in playing. I don't remember exactly when, but I had offered some friends to play a one-shot with me as their dungeon master, and they all agreed, so I told them I would offer a day for us to do it when we're all free. A few weeks ago, one of these friends, we'll call her Fox, said she wanted to hang out and play D&D. So after reaching out to the other players who said yes, I told her we can do it a few days after she asked. I made a one-shot plot in 2 days, helped everyone with their character sheets, so everything was well and good. However, the day before we were set to play, Fox canceled because she had last-minute plans come up. Although I was a little upset, I told her it was fine since this stuff can happen, and canceled the session. Now Fox has started school again. She's in high school while the rest of us have just graduated and is now very busy. While I admire her focusing on school, there aren't many opportunities to actually play. But with the idea of a one-shot fresh in my head, I really wanted to play with friends. So yesterday, I asked the same players from Fox's group if they'd be down to play Sunday, and they said yes. I thought Fox would be able to play, but she's busy, so I asked a different friend if they'd play so we'd have 3 players. The game would also be a one-shot, but the premise and plot is completely different and separate from Fox's game. But the more I've thought about it, I feel bad that Fox isn't able to join. As far as I know, she's been feeling lonely without us and really wanted to play. I feel like I'm replacing her with the other friend, and I think what's really getting to me is that I haven't told her that this game is happening without her. So am I the a-hole for not waiting for her to be available? Should I tell her we're playing, or do I cancel the game and involve the new people I invited to play in Fox's one-shot?
Well, first off, I don't think anyone can call you the a-hole in the situation because it's really sweet that you're concerned about this other person's, feelings and loneliness and not wanting to exclude them. But I mean, it's a one shot. Again, it kind of goes back to that other story we read where you can't really be upset at your other friends doing a one shot. It's like if they met up to play board games without you. It's just D&D themed. So I don't think you have anything to worry about. My advice in this case would be just text Fox and say, hey, some of us really want to play a one shot. You're not available, so I have a different one that we're running tonight. And then whenever you've got time, I've got this other one ready as well.
Yeah, no, I think the author here is way too accommodating to be considered the a-hole. I mean, like you said, they planned a one-shot specifically for Fox, and then they went through the effort of making an entirely different one. So, there's no harm, no foul. And now they want to invite, an extra person, so there's 3, but now they feel guilty if the third person gets shut out if Fox shows up, so now they're willing to, run a campaign with 4 people. They really are being super accommodating here. It's kind of hard to say that they're being malicious.
Yeah, I don't think there's any a-hole here.
Scheduling issues are the a-hole.
Scheduling issues are the a-hole. Always. Am I the a-hole? Metagaming? I generally play the frontliner, and when going through dungeons, I'm checking for traps and proceeding. My guy has detected, and we disabled 1 trap previously in the story. I just want to jump in. How long have you been playing? Because 1 trap in an entire campaign? That DM needs to step it up a little bit. We get to another door, I check for traps, I roll very low. I tell the DM that I go through the door. My party bugs out and says, hey, let the rogue check. Not once before did my character have the rogue double check. They want it because I rolled low. My character has no idea he rolled low, so I continue as normal against the protests. There was no trap on the door, but they're mad saying I put the whole party in danger. But to me, they're metagaming off my rolls. Extra context, I'm a barbarian with that danger sense thing, so it's even less of an issue in my opinion. But they're saying I'm being an a-hole with the it's what my character would do. Edit, the rogue is not the person who said the rogue should check for traps, and the rogue is at the rear of the party in case we are attacked from the rear, so we have a decently high AC person to stall for a turn.
I appreciate the edit. That's a good amount of clarity. So the rogue isn't the one who initiated it. And yeah, if anyone's metagaming, it's the rest of the party. And it's what my character would do if you're just truly trying to play the roles as they happened.
Yeah, I feel like this is something where newer editions of D&D kind of changed how certain things were done that personally I feel is for the worse in like this instance. Because in the older editions, like your detect traps skill was not something you would roll. It was something the DM would roll. He would ask, hey, what's your modifier or what's your percentage chance or whatever. And then the DM would roll it and tell you if you detected a trap or not. And I think that that's a better way to do it, in my opinion, with things like find traps, insight, etc. Because you shouldn't know if you succeeded or not. You should just know what information you gleaned.
I agree with that too, because when it comes to skill checks, the gravity of them sometimes is lost when you're able to have people make multiple checks. So a lot of the times it's not uncommon for a DM to say, hey, there's 1 skill check you have to do here. Who's the most qualified person to do it? And then if there's further skill checks, there's like consequences because, maybe it's time sensitive or, you failed to do something. So a second mechanism happens. So really just letting everyone roll just because you think the number's low. And then you make it so that the second or third person rolls well. And then it's an auto win kind of takes away the gravity of these traps anyways.
Yeah, and also, if you were routinely having multiple people check, again, in the instance of that 2nd edition game we're playing where I don't roll my find traps, the DM does, we do have another thief in the party double check every time because we don't know if I missed something because I rolled poorly or because there's just nothing there. So if you guys were constantly having, both of you check and taking the time to do that, then it wouldn't be metagaming as much. But because no one has ever double checked and then you only ask for it when you see that the die roll was bad, that is metagaming.
Yeah, no, the barbarian is the only one who played it straight here. And
yeah,
if the party doesn't like losing, I mean, that sucks for the party, but it doesn't make them the a-hole.
Plus, again, something that so many people don't realize is the most fun roles in D&D are the failures. Like, succeeding at everything and being a badass is cool and all, but when the barbarian critically fails to detect a trap, walks through a door, and gets a paralyzation poison in the face or something, it's just funny.
Am I the a-hole for wanting just a scoosh more seriousness in my gaming these days? Is that what it says?
Skosh. I like
Skosh.
Scoosh, though. I like Scoosh.
Am I the a-hole for wanting just a scoosh more seriousness in my gaming these days? For context, I started gaming when I was 8, I'm now 51. Up until recently, I was the forever DM. That's a long time.
Homie's been playing D&D longer than I've been alive.
Over the past few years, I've noticed that I've enjoyed myself less sometimes, regardless of which side of the DM screen I'm on. I finally realized that the one commonality in these moments is when I get annoyed at the level of silliness and bullshitting. I don't know when it happened, I don't know why it happened, I don't even know if it's a good or bad thing. But somewhere along the line, I decided that I wanted less tomfoolery, more focus on the game, and less in-character silliness in the game. To be fair, I'm not going all grimdark, though I enjoy such, or edgelord, I'm over 13, or anything. I just want less zany antics and a sense that the people I'm sharing my time with are fully engaged. Am I just getting old?
Okay, so to address the last bit, like I said, you've been playing D&D longer than I've been alive. The getting old part, I mean, it happens. But, I mean, your tastes in gaming change. Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting a more serious game, and there are a lot of people out there, and check RPG horror stories if you want examples, who just take things too far. They take it too silly. Some tables like the silly game, and that's also fine. But there's nothing wrong with you wanting to do a more serious game. Like we already said before, not everyone is a fit for every table and vice versa.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as you're getting older, maybe you're craving more mature media. You want something with a nicer resolution, something that you feel is like a good payoff for your time invested. And yeah, that's just a matter of, are you finding the right table for that? Because, yeah, I get it. You've read 100 mangas, you watch 100 TV shows. Sometimes, like, listening to the spoof of the genre isn't that interesting after you've seen it all so many times. So I get wanting a little more, like, gravity behind, like, the narrative at the table.
Yeah, I think that this is totally not the a-hole. It's just a session zero conversation.
Yeah, not the a-hole. He just wants you to get off his lawn.
Exactly.
And with that, we're gonna wrap up this Christmas special. Thanks a ton to Loot Goblin for coming by and recording with me.
Thanks, Zill, for letting me swing by and read some stories with you.
If you guys haven't already, make sure to go check out his channel and catch the second part of this Christmas collab, which I'll have linked in the description. He's also got great commentary on all the best RPG horror stories, so you don't want to miss that. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you've had a wonderful Christmas.